Now, defensively, this is where he came into the NBA with a more translatable skill. He averaged 2.5 blocks per 75 possessions, which ranked 11th in the NBA. But we've talked about this before. His presence on the defensive end is not just about the blocks. It's about how teams attack the paint and the rim when he's out there, and then can he alter those shots? And he can, right? And from what I can tell with my eyes, he did a very good job of that. He also didn't have a high foul percentage, which is always a good thing. If teams know that this guy that loves to block shots at the rim, wants to be block happy and kind of contest every single thing and swipe down, he's going to get in foul trouble and teams are going to attack him that way. But that's not what happened. Like, he did a good job of staying vertical, using his length and his height to his advantage. And I just wish more players of his size would do that, whether they're on the Hornets or not. Like, you're going to get blocks as a big guy if you're 7 foot, but also doing a good job of altering shots at the rim without fouling. It makes a world of difference, because I think sometimes knowing that you're 7 foot, 7'1", you want to kind of rack up the box score stats of having all these different types of block stats and doing all these things. And Ryan was not necessarily that type of guy. Like, he had blocks, but I think the altering of shots and staying vertical was something that was awesome. I think Matt made a mention of this on a previous episode, but he was also a guy, especially for his size, who didn't mind getting those loose balls on the floor. So he's doing a ton for this defense, despite being limited in the types of coverages he can play in the pick and roll. When comparing him to Musa, he's not going to be coming up to the level of the screen all that often, or at least not being as effective as Musa or switching. He's typically a guy that you would prefer for him just to be drop coverage and kind of eat up space in the paint. The one area of his game on the defensive end that has gotten, I think, the most flack is his defensive rebounding. And I remember in preseason, a lot of the conversation was about him being stronger on the ball. And I would agree. I think we had a summer league episode, and I remember mentioning the fact that he would bring the ball down too low, whether it was on passes or rebounds or anytime he would catch the ball. And that clearly negates your height advantage. I was just talking about height advantage as someone that would block shots, but also height advantage, just generally speaking, when you catch the ball, if you bring it down to your hip, obviously you're no longer 7'1" and guys can take it from you. And you've got to be stronger if you are bringing it down low and kind of keeping it at your chin level and using that to his advantage. That is not something that you saw early on, summer league preseason, early on in the season. It seems like it got a little bit better. So being more physical was definitely a thing that occurred more so later in the season. I think the physicality on his part earlier in the season was something that a lot of people pointed to, just losing the ball on rebounds, on passes. I think in the regular season, he averaged fewer defensive rebounds than Miles Bridges, Knipple, LaMelo Ball, and Miller. Now, those guys played more, so obviously the averages might be a little bit higher on their end, and those guys are good rebounders for their size. But even his defensive rebounding percentage wasn't all that great. So when you factor in court time, play time, and the opportunities to get defensive rebounds, the defensive rebounding percentage for Ryan Kalkbrenner was definitely a thing that was a little bit concerning. Now, saying all that, I've mentioned this several occasions online, but I will say I think Kalkbrenner's presence on the court allows teams to grab more defensive rebounds. So if he himself is not grabbing those, is he able to box his guy out and clear up space for when that ball either hits the floor or, off the rim, and other guys can kind of swoop in? When he was off the court, the team's defensive rebounding the percentage dropped by 2%, according to Cleaning the Glass. That places him in that on-off switch there in the 77th percentile. I think while he can't always get to the rebound, as we're talking about like some of his mobility, He really does a good job of holding his box out and allowing those other guys to kind of snag it off the floor.